My parents sold me to a dog for money. Yes, you heard that right. Not for marriage. Not for work. Not for love. They sold me to a dog. Kindly comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel as I share my story. My name is Michelle. I am 23 years old, the only daughter of my parents, and the only sacrifice they gave to a billionaire for his pet. We were poor, yes. We were struggling. But I never thought that struggle would lead to something this dark, this disgusting, this evil. One hot Saturday morning, my mother came into my room and told me to dress up. Wear your yellow gown, she said, smiling. You're going to meet someone important. My father was already waiting outside, dressed neatly. He looked at me and said, "You're about to change our lives, Michelle." I didn't know he meant destroy mine. I thought maybe I was going for a job interview, or meeting a sponsor who would help me get into university. I was excited, nervous, but hopeful. We entered a long black car and drove for hours. The silence in that car still haunts me, heavy, cold, fake. When we arrived, I saw a mansion so big, it swallowed the sky. The compound was full of guards. But what I noticed most were the dogs. Big, foreign dogs. Loud, aggressive, wild. They barked non-stop as we walked in. I was shaking. My mother held my hand tightly and said, "Don't be afraid. Everything will be fine." She lied. Inside the house, we met Chief Peter, a powerful man. His name alone made people kneel. His clothes smelled like foreign perfume. His eyes were cold, empty. He didn't look at me like a person. He looked at me like I was property. "She's beautiful," he said, without even greeting me. "She'll do." My father smiled and nodded. "As we agreed, sir. She's untouched. She's ready. Touched. Ready." I turned to my mum, confused. She didn't meet my eyes. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. Chief Peter led me to a room. The door was heavy. When it shut, it felt like a prison. There was no bed, just a mat on the floor. And in the corner, a giant dog. Its name was Bruno. That dog was not just for protection. No. That dog was not just a pet. It was the reason I was there. That night, Chief Peter said words I will never forget. "You're not just mine, Michelle. You belong to Bruno too. Sleep here. Feed him. Bathe him. And when he wants you, don't say no." I froze. My ears refused to believe what I had just heard. But the locked door, the silence from my parents, the chains around my spirit, they all confirmed it. I was no longer a daughter. I was no longer human. I was the girl they gave to a dog. And nobody came to save me. The first night inside that room was the longest night of my life. I sat on the cold mat, legs folded, arms wrapped around myself, watching the door. But what I feared wasn't behind the door. It was already inside the room with me. Bruno. The big golden dog lay on the other side of the mat. But he wasn't sleeping. He was staring, breathing. His eyes glowed in the dark. His chest rose and fell like a slow drumbeat of terror. I couldn't sleep. Not even for a second. Every sound made me jump. Every breath from that dog felt like a warning. I prayed in silence, tears running down my face. "God, please, don't let this be real. Please wake me up." But it was real. It was too real. Around midnight, I felt movement. Bruno stood up. I didn't breathe. My hands turned ice cold. He began walking slowly, his paws heavy on the floor, clicking against the tiles. He came close to the mat and circled it once, then twice. Then he stepped on it. On me. His heavy paws landed on my leg first, then on my hip, then on my stomach. I froze. My heart was thundering. I couldn't scream. I didn't know if I should move or stay still. He stood on me like I was nothing, like I was the floor. He sniffed my face, my hair, my chest. His breath was hot and wet and full of power. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Please, please, Bruno, just let me be." He didn't bite. He didn't bark. He just stood there, breathing on me like I was meat, then walked to the other end of the mat and laid back down. I couldn't sleep again. I sat up and cried silently until morning. My tears made a small wet patch on the mat. I didn't wipe them. Let them soak in. Let the pain stay there. The door didn't open until almost noon the next day. When Chief Peter came in, I thought maybe I'd have a chance to run. Maybe he'd see how broken I looked and have mercy. But he only laughed. "Bruno is warming up to you," he said. "Good girl. Good girl." Like I was also an animal. He brought food. I didn't eat. "Eat," he said sharply. "You'll need strength. Bruno has a lot of energy." I turned my face away. He slapped me. Just once, but it was enough. I ate with trembling hands, my stomach turning with every swallow. I wasn't eating to live. I was eating because I had no choice. That night, the same thing happened. Bruno walked on me again. Not just once. All through the night. Stepping on my legs. Sniffing my skin. Pressing his weight on my chest like he wanted to own it. I couldn't scream. I couldn't fight. I could only cry. After a few nights, my body began to give up. I couldn't stay awake forever. I would doze off, only to be woken up by the feel of his paws on my thighs, his nose on my neck. I began to lose pieces of myself. Each night felt like dying slowly. My skin started to feel like it didn't belong to me. My soul began to float, like it wanted to leave my body behind. I stopped dreaming. Even in sleep, I was in the room. With the dog. One day I asked Chief Peter, "Why me?" He looked at me like I was stupid. "Because your parents sold you," he said plainly. "They said you were obedient, quiet, and you needed money." He walked away laughing. My mother's voice echoed in my head. "You're doing this for your brothers. Don't be selfish." So I was selfish for wanting to sleep like a normal human being? I was selfish for not wanting a dog to walk on me, night after night? I was selfish for wanting love, not from a beast, but from a family? Some nights, I thought of biting my tongue and bleeding to death. Other nights, I thought of strangling the dog when he came near, but I was too weak. And even if I did, Chief Peter would get another one. I was not just owned. I was broken. The world outside the mansion moved on, people laughing, going to church, posting pictures online. But inside that house, on that mat, I stopped being Michelle. I became the girl who shared her room with a dog. The girl who lay awake, counting paw steps across her chest. The girl whose only touch came from claws and teeth and fur. And the worst part, nobody came looking for me. Nobody. Not my father. Not my mother. Not even God. The third week felt like my soul had no skin left. I was alive, but not living. I breathed, but it hurt. Even silence started to sound loud. It screamed in my ears when I sat alone on the mat with Bruno. I didn't know how many days had passed. I had stopped counting. All I knew was pain. Pain in my heart. Pain in my body. Pain in my soul. And just when I thought things could not get worse, Chief Peter proved me wrong. One evening, the door opened. I didn't lift my head. I had learned not to. I had learned to keep my eyes on the floor like a well-trained slave. But I heard his voice, loud, mocking, cruel. "Bruno," Chief Peter called sweetly like he was calling a child. "Come here, boy." Bruno jumped up immediately, wagging his tail like a happy servant. The kind of loyalty I used to give my parents before they handed me over to this hell. Chief Peter walked toward me. He was in a wine-colored robe and slippers that looked more expensive than anything I had ever touched in my life. He looked down at me like I was filth. Then he smiled, that slow, evil smile. "Michelle," he said gently, "you've been doing so well. So quiet. So obedient. I said nothing. You know, he added, Bruno gets lonely sometimes. He needs to play. And he likes walking on soft things. He stepped back, looked at the dog and said, walk on her. I lifted my head in shock. My eyes widened. What? I whispered. Please, please don't. But Bruno had already started moving. Walk on her, boy, Chief Peter commanded. Go on. Show her how much you love her. Bruno leaped onto the mat. I tried to crawl away, but Chief Peter stepped in and pushed me back down with his foot. I said, stay still, he snapped. Then he laughed, a deep, ugly sound that echoed in my ears like thunder in a coffin. Bruno stepped on my back first. Then he moved to my waist. His heavy paws pressed into my skin, bone by bone. I cried out in pain. Please. I screamed. Please stop. Please. But Chief Peter only clapped and laughed louder. You're such a drama queen, he said. It's just a dog. What's the big deal? Just a dog. Just a dog. That thing walking on my back, stepping on my chest, pressing into my spine, was not just anything. It was the very thing my parents gave me to. As Bruno walked back and forth, Chief Peter brought out his phone. Oh, this is too good, he said, filming me. The billionaire's pet. You'll be famous one day, Michelle. I covered my face with my hands as the dog walked across my arms, his nails scratching my skin. Tears soaked the mat. My body ached. My dignity gone. Chief Peter leaned over and whispered into my ear, you should be grateful, you know. Some girls sleep with men for nothing. You're helping your family. That word. Family. I let out a scream. A loud, broken scream that didn't even sound human. I didn't care anymore if I died. I didn't care if the dog bit me or if Chief Peter killed me. I wanted it to end. I wanted everything to end. But Chief Peter only stood, smiling. You'll get used to it, he said as he walked toward the door. He'll sleep better tonight after walking on you. He left, and the door locked behind him. The silence returned, louder than ever. Bruno curled up on the other side of the mat. I curled up too, on my side, shaking. My body hurt. My chest felt like it had been stepped on by 10 men. But worse than that was what happened inside me. Something died in me that night. Hope. I stopped hoping my parents would come for me. I stopped hoping the pain would end. I stopped hoping that I was still someone worth saving. The next morning, I heard laughter from the hallway. People. Staff. Life. And I realized the world was still going on, while I was being destroyed, slowly, completely, inside a room shared with a dog. And still, no one came. No one asked about me. No one wondered where Michelle had gone. Because to them, I was just another girl from a poor home. And to my parents, I was nothing but a solution. A trade. An answer. They gave me away. And now, even a dog had more rights over my body than I did. I didn't know when I started praying again. Maybe it was the only thing left that couldn't be taken away from me. Not by Chief Peter, not by Bruno, not even by my parents. Every night, while the dog slept, I whispered to God. Not loud. Just soft words into the silence, with tears soaking my lips. God, if you can hear me, please take me away from here. I repeated it again. And again. Every night. Please, let this door open. Please, let me leave. Please. The dog would sometimes lift his head, look at me, then fall back asleep. I would close my eyes and keep praying. Every night for 1 whole month, I said the same words. The same tears. The same ache. My body was no longer the same. My heart had changed. But something inside me, that last spark of life, refused to die. I held on to it. And then, on the 30th day, something happened. It was a Saturday. Chief Peter had visitors earlier. I heard their laughter from the main hall while I sat in the back room with Bruno beside me. I didn't bother eating. I didn't speak. I just stared at the locked door. He had opened it earlier that day, fed the dog, and warned me with cold eyes, "Don't try anything stupid." "I'll know." I nodded like always. But something was different about him that day. He was in a hurry, angry, frustrated. He got a phone call and rushed out. He didn't insult me the way he usually did. He didn't even pet the dog. He just slammed the door behind him and stormed out. Night came. Bruno slept on his usual spot. I looked at the door and froze. The door wasn't locked. I sat up quickly. I rubbed my eyes. It was slightly open. The small light from the corridor poured in. I stood up, shaking. I tiptoed to the door. My heart was beating so loud, I feared it would wake Bruno. But he didn't move. I pushed the door slowly. It opened, all the way. For the first time in one whole month, I stepped outside the room. My legs were weak. My breath was fast. I looked around. No guard. No maid. I walked past the corridor. Every wall felt like it was holding its breath. The house was silent. I reached the main door. Locked. I panicked. I almost cried. But I looked to the side, the small service door near the kitchen. Open. My hands were shaking as I pushed it. The fresh air outside hit my face like a slap from God himself. I was free. But I wasn't safe yet. I had to reach the gate. I ran barefoot across the compound. My legs were bruised. My gown was dirty. My hair was a mess. But I ran like my life depended on it, because it did. Then I saw the gate. Unlocked. Open. Just a little. It was like something out of a dream. Chief Peter, in his rush, in his pride, in his arrogance, had forgotten to lock the gate. For the first time, his power had made a mistake. And that mistake was my miracle. I squeezed through the gate and hit the road. It was dark, quiet, but I didn't care. I ran. I ran like a mad girl. Tears fell from my eyes as my legs carried me far from the house of pain. Every step I took felt like a chain breaking off my body. I ran until my legs gave way. I fell by the side of the road, breathing hard. A car passed. Then another. No one stopped. But I was out. I was finally out. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't even know what day it was. But I knew one thing. God heard me. And he waited 30 nights to open a door that man thought could never be opened. The sun was just rising when I found the road leading to the Human Rights Office. I didn't know how far I had run. My legs were swollen. My lips were dry. I hadn't eaten in over 24 hours. But I was alive. And I was free. People stared at me. A girl walking barefoot in the early hours, hair scattered, clothes torn, and dirt covering every part of her skin. But I didn't stop to explain. I didn't want their pity. I wanted justice. When I reached the gate of the Human Rights Building, the guard at first didn't want to let me in. "Where do you think you're going?" he barked. I looked at him with eyes that had cried too much to be afraid. "Please." "I was sold to a dog by a rich man," I whispered. His face changed. "What did you just say?" "I said my parents sold me to a rich man. I slept in the same room with a dog. I bathed the dog. I fed the dog. And at night, the dog climbed me. Every single night. I fell to the floor. I couldn't stand anymore." The guard rushed inside and called someone. 2 women came running out. They grabbed me gently and brought me into the office. "Get her water. Get her food. And call the head officer now," one of the women shouted. Inside the room, I sat down on a chair with a blanket around me. Warm tears rolled down my cheeks. For once, they were not tears of pain, but tears of release. The head of the Human Rights Office, a tall woman in glasses, came in with a file and a deep look in her eyes. "Are you Michelle?" she asked gently. I nodded. "Please tell me everything." Don't leave anything out. And I did. I told them how my mummy and daddy sat with Chief Peter and accepted money in exchange for me. How they smiled and gave me away like an object. How they knew I would live with the dog. How they even hugged him and thanked him. I told them how the first night the dog climbed me, I begged for help. I cried so loudly the walls should have broken. But nobody came. Nobody stopped it. Not even my parents. I told them how Chief Peter would laugh and say, "You were born for this. Just accept your new life." I told them how I couldn't sleep because the dog would walk on me, lick me, and wait for Chief's command. I told them how I started praying every night. For 1 full month. And I told them how, on the 30th day, the gate was left open, and I ran like my life was on fire. The woman at the table covered her mouth as tears rolled from her eyes. The man beside her shook his head and whispered, "We must act. This is pure evil." They didn't just take my words. They recorded my statement. They sent a team immediately to Chief Peter's house. The moment they reached his mansion, he had already started looking for me. He was calling every hospital and police station. But it was too late. The human rights agents stormed his compound. They found Bruno, the dog, still in that same room. They found all the evidence. The chains. The stained clothes. The videos on Chief Peter's phone. He was arrested. His pride couldn't protect him. His wealth couldn't protect him. His status couldn't protect him. And for the first time in my life, someone listened to me. They took me to the hospital for tests and therapy. I was weak. I was broken. But every day, I took a step toward healing. The press came in days later. The story was everywhere. Girls sold to billionaire to sleep with dog, parents involved. Everyone was talking. But what shocked them the most was that I was still alive. Now tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you ever go back to your parents? Would you? Would you look into the eyes of the people who gave you away like meat, for money? I didn't. I didn't even want to hear their names again. They sold me, not to a man, but to a dog. A dog that walked on me, that climbed me, that broke me. And all for what? For money. If I had died in that room, they would have buried me with a fake story. But God gave me one more breath, and I used it to tell the truth. So if you're hearing my voice right now, and you're in pain, and nobody believes you, I want you to know, your voice matters. Even if it shakes. Even if it's weak. Even if the world ignores you. Speak it anyway. Because truth is louder than silence. And to every parent selling their child for comfort, may your comfort burn with guilt. Watch out for part 2. And don't forget to subscribe for more real, emotional stories.